Okay. All right. So today we're going to go through our traineeship pre-departure readiness briefing. So what we'll do is we'll take you through some of the application and some things you need to fill out. Let me make this smaller. Yep. So we'll go through who we are, some of the important documentation that you will need to fill out. We'll walk you through what's needed in order to fill out your grant application as well as your grant agreement. We'll also explain what all of these are. We'll take you through the academic preparation, which is your learning agreement. We'll highlight some of the things that you need to do, things like getting insurance, checking if you need a visa. We'll kind of give you a little bit of a to-do list, and then we'll do a brief overview of some readiness. So things like academic readiness and personal readiness for your journey, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A. So just a little bit about who we are and where we're at. So here's a picture of Global Galway and our office. And who you'll be dealing with is the outbound staff. So there's myself, which is Kristen. I am the Erasmus executive. And so I deal with kind of everything Erasmus, a lot of the partnerships, making sure everything's set up so you guys can go on these. And then you have our outbound guru, Jody. So she knows everything outbound. So she'll be the one processing for instance, your grant application, your grant agreement, and making sure that you get paid. So make sure you answer her emails and read them and get everything done on time. So if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. Our emails are here, and this is where we are located on campus. So I'll just do a brief overview of what is Erasmus. So what it stands for is the European Community Action Scheme for the Mobility of University Students. And that's why it has a very shortened name. So it's been around since 1987, and the University of Galway has been a part of it since then. So it's kind of been a cornerstone of mobility and internationalization here at the University of Galway for quite some time. But as a summary, what it is, it's the European Union's flagship mobility program for both education and training, and it's meant to really enhance the European dimension of higher education. And its main way of doing this is by increasing student and staff mobility and providing avenues for students to do that. So, what are the kind of the main flagship areas? The first and foremost, and kind of the cornerstone of it, is mobility. And then these all fall under it. So one is making sure that everybody can go, so increasing avenues for inclusion and diversity, increasing some forms of digital mobility. So this is also part of inclusion, also part of sustainability. And then kind of the last area is sustainability. How can we make travel and education traineeships more sustainable? And so for you guys specifically, so you guys are going on traineeships. So kind of what you probably heard the most of are the Erasmus study visits. And these are where students go and take courses at a university for either a semester or a full year. And those are the bulk of the mobilities that take place. The traineeships are a different avenue. They're also known as either work placements or internships. And what the traineeships are is they are work experience. So you're not studying, you're not taking courses, you're not sitting in a classroom or a lecture hall, and you're not taking exams. The traineeship is fully based on work experience. And so all students are eligible for traineeships. Kind of the key thing about traineeships, though, is it must be formally recognized by the University of Galway. And as we go through the documentations, one thing you will fill out is a learning agreement, and this is going to outline how it's going to be recognized by the university here. So just a brief kind of, hopefully you're all excited about going on the traineeship, and we don't have to sell it to you, but what's in it for you, you'll create really amazing memories, you'll make international friends, you'll learn a lot, you're going to be immersed in a new culture, you might be immersed in a new language, so you'll really get to experience that culture, the language, and this is, at the end of the day, really going to broaden your horizons, you'll learn a lot about yourself, grow as a person and just gain a lot of these valuable soft skills that might come across in, say, interviews in the future about when was the time you faced something really challenging, what did you do to overcome it, how did you learn something new, etc. And then at the kind of a big bonus as well is there's a lot of academic benefits to going on a traineeship as well. There is data to back up that there is enhanced employability following undergoing one of these traineeships. So there's a lot in it for you, and we're all excited, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of it. And I think at the end of the day, this quote sums it up. Traveling is still the most intense mode of learning. So it will be, can be very intense at times, going to a new culture and diving in, but you will learn a lot about yourself and a lot about what you're going to do in your work placement as well by being fully immersed. Okay, so now that we went through that, now we'll start to dive into a lot of the key documentation and what you need to do in order to go on your traineeship and in order to get the grant for your traineeship. So first we have the handbook. So it's linked here and we will also send it out to you. But the handbook is on our website. You can see the link here. This is your first point of reference. It has everything outlined in it as to what is a traineeship, what do you need to do. It outlines how to fill out all of this information as well. So we really suggest that you open this, read through it, and you use this as your first point of reference before you ask us any questions. It's a really great reference, everything filled out, screenshots. So we definitely say look that up. So that's kind of your first main document to look at. After that, you have two main documents to fill out for your grant. And they flow as first you need to fill out an application, and then after the application, you sign the agreement. So our grant application form, you're going to get a link sent to you from Jody. And this is quite simple to fill out. We'll go into some of the details, but this is how you're going to fill out where you're going and your information, for instance, how you want to receive the grant. And the deadline for this is going to be the 15th of July at 5 p.m. So make sure you mark down this date as this is a very strict deadline. Following your application, you're then going to fill out the grant agreement. This is something we will send to you. We will fill it out based upon the information in your application. And this will be your financial contract that you will sign, and it will outline how much you are going to receive. In both of these, kind of our main disclaimer is make sure you fill out everything properly. They're all very simple questions, but make sure you fill it out carefully and accurately. This is going to be our database and our mailing list to send you information. This is also how you're going to get paid. So, for instance, if there's an account number wrong or a misspelling in a name or address, that can delay your payment and just cause a lot of back and forth. So just make sure you pay attention to spelling, numbers, make sure everything's, say, capitalized properly and punctuated where necessary. Okay. So let's go into filling out and completing your grant application form. As I said, it's very straightforward. It's things like your name, your address, your bank account, but you just want to make sure you fill it out as clearly and accurately as possible. So make sure you use your name as it appears on your passport. One name is sufficient unless you usually use two. And we just say just be consistent. So, for instance, if they're saying, do I use the Irish or English name? Just use one and stick to it through all the paperwork. It will make processing the grant simpler and make sure we'd say don't send you information twice. It will ask you for a home address. Make sure in this case that you use a permanent address. So don't use an apartment on campus, for instance. You're also going to be asked during this to select dates using a calendar. These are going to be the dates of your traineeship, so make sure you fill this out as accurately as possible as well. Now, there is a way to make some changes throughout it, but in order for us to make this as smoothly as possible, that you get the accurate grant amount. So your grant amount is based on how long you're going. So you don't want, for instance, want to put down a really long time because that won't be accurate and you might then have to pay some back. So try and choose the most accurate dates as well. And then just to note again, before you get started, you will have to fill out your bank account here because we'll pay you directly here. So just make sure you have that information. So have your bank account and have the dates of the visit. Consult where you're the host university website, consult the host lab, for instance, that you're attending to really make sure you get these dates down. But otherwise, it's very straightforward. Just make sure you fill it out consistently. So this is an example of the email you'll get. So you're going to fill out the form online. It's going to use your University of Galway 365 account. Only fill it out once, and then you will immediately receive an email like this. And it's just an automated email confirming receipt and providing some additional information. It might go to, say, your spam folder, just be on the lookout for it. And again, remember the grant application will be sent to you after this in the form of a link. And make sure you submit it by the 15th of July at 5 p.m. in order to receive your funding. There will be part of the grant application is you'll have to agree to submitting your personal data, and it will provide you a link to the university's data protection policy, which is here. You'll just be required to say that you've read and understood the policy and that you agree to the collection, use, and storage of your data. It's mainly us, it's all kept internally. And again, this is how we create our databases and pay you. But if you have any questions about how we collect your data and keep it, feel free to reach out to us. So what happens if you miss the deadline? Unfortunately, this is a very strict deadline. So if you miss the deadline, you cannot be considered for a grant. So you may still be able to go abroad as what's called a zero grant student. So you'll be able to go on your traineeship, but you will not be receiving any Erasmus grant funding. And we just simply cannot accept late applications for this. So do make sure that you give yourself enough time to fill out the application. It is very straightforward, but it's always at the last minute when your computer needs a restart or an update. That's just the rules of the universe. So do make sure that, try not to fill it out at the last minute. We do need it by the 15th of July at 5 p.m. So don't delay in filling this out, just in case you have questions or something goes wrong, as I'm sure you do all want to receive your funding to go on your traineeship. Okay, so after your application, so after the 15th, you have everything in on time, filled out. Well, we will then send you your grant agreement. So we're going to take some of the information from the application and we're going to send you this, which is essentially your financial contract between yourself and the university. So as part of this, we will fill out, you'll have your bank details. Part of this, you'll also have to fill out your insurance details. We'll go into that a little bit later on. And then you're going to sign, date, and return it to us. This is where we're going to mark down how much you're going to get paid. So you do want to make sure this is filled out appropriately and read it over, as it will outline what types of funding, how much funding you will be getting based on your dates of your study here. So we will send this to you. You will check to make sure everything's filled out appropriately. You'll insert some of your information and then you'll send it back. Once then it's back, we can start to process payments. Okay, so the insurance. So the insurance is a mandatory part of the grant agreement contract. So we are not a travel insurance broker, so we can't tell you what insurance to get, but we do have information on our website about what needs to be covered. So for instance, you might have an existing health policy. Uh, Check what's covered already on it. There's some things that should be covered, like personal liability, medical expenses, for instance. We have a full list of details of the requirements at the website down here under our outgoing page and health insurance. So please make sure that you do take the time to read through that. Uh, Look at various policies, collect quotes, for instance, read what's covered. We have detailed information on our website about things to look out for and what would be of use. In addition to your private travel insurance, as a mandatory part, we also say you should hold an EHIC if eligible. So if you are from the EU, you can hold this health insurance card. So please visit the website, make sure you either sign up for one or that yours is up to date. So these are very critical parts of a traineeship. So do make sure that you read our website on health insurance and that you do look to sign up for the European health insurance card. You can feel free to ask us questions, but again, as I said, we are not brokers, so we can't tell you what type of insurance to get, but it is critical, particularly as you'll be working abroad, to have a private travel insurance. And you will, as I said, when you fill out the grant agreement, sign that you do have this information and you are indeed signed up. Okay, now on to how much and when will you get paid? So granted, you get your application in on time and then you fill out your grant agreement, sign it and return to us. How much will you receive and when? So the form of the grant will come as a monthly payment. So it's based on where you are going. So it's 535 a month for these locations listed out here. And then all other countries are 480 per month. These are determined by the EU, and it's based on the cost of living in the countries. So we will calculate this out. That's why it's very important that you put in how long you planned on attending for. And then there is an additional 250 top up per month for financially disadvantaged students based on SISI or SUSI. These will be processed as well, usually typically a couple months later as we get this information, but feel free to ask us any questions about this. So when will you get paid? So there's a main grant installment paid at the beginning of the traineeship period. So once we get all of your documentation in, we send an estimated 80% to you at the start. This you will have to budget out and spend, and then we will give you the remainder, so about 20%. We'll calculate it based on your actual time there after the traineeship period, provided all of that the necessary paperwork to finish your traineeship has been submitted. So again, you'll receive these two payments once all of your paperwork is in. So just a note for students with disabilities. So there is a disability or exceptional special needs grant available to assist with any additional costs in completing your time abroad. So these are things that can help you, say for instance, you need a travel, a service dog, you need very specific things when traveling. It's helping to cover something that will be necessary that you might not be able to go and complete your traineeship without. Um, and so if you think you might qualify for this, feel free to reach out to us. We'll send you some of the details that are part of the application, and you can take a look to see if you qualify for that. Outside of that, all students with disabilities, whether any type, you might be registered with the Disability of Service here. We do suggest that you inform the disability officer where you are attending. So your traineeship might not be in a university, but if you are going to university, you don't have to tell them. But if you do need very specific supports, it doesn't hurt to ask and inform people ahead of time. This will not impact your ability at all to go on the grant. It can just inform that you get the appropriate supports. As well as we said, if you're going to a host organization, it's up to you if you want to inform, but it doesn't hurt to inform about any support requirements that are necessary. If you do have any questions on how to do this on the grant or how to let a host know about your support requirements, again, feel free to reach out to us. So your Erasmus grant, when you sign your grant agreement, it is a contract. It's a financial contract, which means that breach of contract can occur. And so for you, if you fail to complete the agreed traineeship period, or you fail to complete a minimum of 2 months abroad, you will be in breach of contract. So say you return home without completing the agreed traineeship period, but have completed 2 months, you then will be asked to return a portion of the grant. As we outlined, your grant is based on your time. So we are giving you about 80% up front. So then you might return home, and the total amount of your grant is then going to be less than that 80% we initially sent you. So you will then have to do a repayment of the grant. If you return home without kind of completing the international period that you plan to go for, it can also have implications for your final degree and your fees here at the University of Galway. And that's really based upon how you're getting recognition for it here at the University of Galway. Inquiries about this can be sent to your academic coordinator. And as if anything comes up in your time during your traineeship, definitely let us know. Be in contact with us. The best way we can get involved and help you is if we know as soon as things are happening, and we can help you work around any issues. But just be aware that it is a contract when you sign this. So if, for instance, you don't finish the time abroad, you might have to repay some back. But we're here to help you. So if things arise, let us know. We'll do our best to assist and outline all of your options for you. So now that we went through the grant, I'll now go through the academic preparation, which is now your learning agreement. So we have your financial contract. Your learning agreement is your academic contract. It can be downloaded. We have the website here, which will also be sent to you, but you can see that there's a lot of information under our outgoing students page on our website. So what is the learning agreement? This is going to have all of the information about your traineeship, what you're going to be doing, and how you're going to be evaluated throughout this. It does require approval and sign off by academic coordinators at both the University of Galway and at the host university. And this is really going to help you outline how you're going to, say, get credit or recognition for your time of your traineeship. So any questions about your learning agreement can be geared towards your academic coordinator here at the University of Galway or at the host university. There is a section in this that's called mobility period. You do not fill that out now. That is for changes. So any changes that occur during this, you would fill that out and then it gets re-signed. So it's not that you're not allowed to make changes. You are. Things do change and will, but there is a section and then it requires sign off during this as well. If you don't know who your academic coordinator is, in our handy dandy notebook at the back, there's a list of all the academic coordinators based on discipline. So here's what the learning agreement looked like in its original format. We have moved away from paper-based version to an online version. So that can be filled out at this website here as the online learning agreement. We have detailed information in our handbook about how to fill this out, what is the key information that's needed in each area. And then, as you said, your academic coordinator can assist with any of the specifics that need to be filled out during this. As you see, there's some information like detailed program of a traineeship period. That's to be filled out in conjunction with your academic coordinators. So some of the additional paperwork that will be included, you have a traineeship certificate. This will be completed before you leave the host organization. So you've underwent everything outlined in your learning agreement. Everything went well. Kind of the evaluation of it at the end is being filled out. You do need to then submit a traineeship certificate before you leave. The host must fill out the section which is the evaluation of the trainee. Uh, the traineeship does have to be recognized by the university, and this is one of the ways you will be evaluated. Some of the ways in which you will be evaluated can be discussed as you're filling out the learning agreement. They will then evaluate your traineeship period, complete the form, and it has to be signed, stamped, and dated. And this must be completed fully and submitted to us here. And this is, again, some of the paperwork that needs to be submitted at the very end in order to receive the last chunk of your grant. And this is an example of what this looks like. So this is it's very outlined very clearly that this is for after the mobility and it's your traineeship certificate. So this is some of the information about what was the program again, what tasks you did carry out, some of the skills you gained, and then an evaluation, and that will be filled out by the host there. And then at the bottom, they will sign and date it, and then you are to return this to us to kind of complete the mobility period. So a question on some other prep. One is a question of visa. So if you're not an EU citizen, you might need a visa for your studies in the destination country you're going to. This is up to you to investigate. So we say do a Google search, check with your destination's country embassy here in Ireland to ask them a question. It's better to look it up ahead of time. You don't want to be turned around at the airport. And do just note that visas can take time. And this is something that we also can't assist with. So make sure that you do the research on if you need a visa to attend your traineeship. But one note, this does apply to UK citizens who only hold a British passport. So just do your research as to whether you will need a visa to attend or not. And make sure you get the paperwork in with plenty of time. Some other preparation, and this is the fun part, research where you're going. You will be living there, so make sure you look at kind of the different areas. This can be done through tourism websites. We do have reports from former students online, so that's a really good place to see if there's one for the location that you're attending. Read some travel books. There is an Erasmus Plus app that can help you, and there's also some websites that you can look at. And this is going to help you not only get familiar with where you're going, but maybe where you want to find accommodation at, etc. We also highly suggest that you contact the Department of Foreign Affairs. They have information, advice sheets per country that outlines maybe some very specific laws, some things to be aware of in terms of safety. We also suggest that you register your destination with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and this is just to be on the safe side. And also note where you're going, where the closest Irish embassy or consulate is. Again, hopefully nobody needs those, but it's best to have the information ahead of time to be registered and to know where the closest Irish embassy is. So to summarize some of the items on your to-do list, your very first one is going to be your grant application. Following your grant application, once we get all the information, we will then issue your grant agreement, which will then have to be completed and signed. So these are the two pieces of information we need in order to pay you. You will need to complete your learning agreement. This will be filled out in conjunction with your academic coordinators. You do have to arrange your own private travel insurance and your European health insurance card where eligible. Make sure your passport is valid. You want it to be valid for at least 6 months after your final return trip, so make sure you look into that. Consider looking into an international student card. This could be used potentially at your location for discounts on some things. Everybody likes discounts. Research accommodation in your destination city and town. Do note that, in some cities, some areas are better than others. There's some, you just want to be aware of if there's any scams in the area. So just make sure you do some research, what's going to be close to where you're attending. Is there public transit? Researching accommodation can be very exciting, but it can also be stressful. So make sure you look at, if you are going to a university, they might also have some assistance, maybe an accommodation service with some information as well. So do make sure you start that research early on. And then if you do happen to be on Facebook, I know it's a little bit outdated now, but if you are, we do have a Facebook group for outgoing students where we will post information as well. So out of those, what we'll send you, we will send you after today, I don't have it on here, we'll send you the link to your grant application. We will then send you your grant agreement. This is after you apply for the grant. We will send you the timeline as well as a safety advice sheet. And then we will also kind of send you some other information throughout your traineeship period. So just a summary of then the paperwork required from you post-grant. So after everything gets filled out, your grant agreement is signed, your first payment is sent out, your learning agreement is complete. We do have you sign, and this is very quick and easy, a grant acknowledgement form. And this is just a signature, and it has to be a signature, not a computer font, where you write down how much you received and you sign that you got it. This is just a record for us to ensure that when we press send, that the money actually gets to your bank account. So you'll have to send this after your first grant installment and the second one. Again, it's a very simple form. It's just amount, date, signature. You will have to fill out a student survey, and this will again be after the visit. It will be an email from a do not reply address. And you will have to hand in your traineeship cert. This will be signed and stamped as you are finishing your activities. And then your final grant installment will be withheld if any of these are missing. So do make sure that you fill out these little pieces of information. The traineeship's a big one, over the course of your traineeship period. It's a lot of information, but here's your paperwork summary. So the first thing is your grant application form. And as its name says, this is an application. After the application, we can then fill out your grant agreement. And this will take all of the information from your application, fill out how much you are estimated to be given as part of your grant. You will then sign and return that to us. With your academic coordinators, you will work on your learning agreement, and this will be outlining what you will do during your traineeship period. After you get each payment, you'll fill out a grant acknowledgement form outlining how much money you got, and you'll be clapping because you got money in your account. But you'll fill that out just to make sure we know that you got it. At the end of your traineeship, you will hand in your traineeship cert, as well as doing the student survey. And then after all of that's complete, we'll send your final payment based on your actual dates of your traineeship. And then just to remember, the deadline is the 15th of July 2025. And so if you do not get this in, you will not get a grant. So make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to complete the application. And then very quickly, I'll just go over a little bit of readiness, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So the first I'm going to highlight is some academic readiness. And so this might sound cliche and might sound a bit cheesy, but you are an ambassador for your country and your university. And so I hope that you're all proud to be getting a degree from the University of Galway. And you want that degree to be a standout degree. You want the reputation of the University of Galway to be fantastic, and that when employers see a degree from the University of Galway, they know that those are top tier students. So it's very important that you're going out and representing the University of Galway in all of these workspaces, and that your behavior and attitude will reflect that larger reputation of the University of Galway and its degrees. So if people in these workspaces see, this person always shows up, they have a good attitude, they ask questions, they try, they're there, they have a positive, attitude. That's going to reflect well on the University of Galway. It's going to reflect well on yourself if you need a letter of recommendation, but also largely because you never know where people are going to end up on. Somebody that you're working with might be on a hiring committee for another student from the University of Galway, and they'll remember you, and then you might be on another one, and they would have met another student. So I hope you can kind of see, and the world is smaller than we think, even though it's big, that you do want to, set and, have a good attitude. Nobody expects you to be perfect, but you do want to be a professional student. So just be aware of things like work styles, the traineeship culture, the rules of engagement, the business setup might be very different than how it is in Ireland. So just make sure you show up, you read any documentation that needs to be read ahead of time, you ask questions as it goes on. So just go in with an open mind and be aware and show up. And just ensure that, throughout your entire traineeship, you're utilizing professionalism, you're utilizing proper email etiquette. Nobody wants emails that just say, hey, with things misspelled. So make sure you're using proper etiquette. Just make sure you're paying attention, to the rules, following your learning agreement, asking questions if something goes awry or is off, and that you're just respectful and have academic integrity. And so now a little bit on emotional readiness. So culture shock is a real thing, and there's a lot of varying symptoms of culture shock, ranging from everything to anxiety to being unable to sleep or being very, very tired. But at its core, the simplest definition is culture shock is the impact of moving from a familiar culture to one that is unfamiliar. So some of the causes that you might recognize, and one of these might stand out more to you, is it is just a shock to your system to be in a totally new environment where you're learning everything new again. Where you live at now, you know where your Tesco is, you know where things are, but you're going to have to relearn even the basics. There might be even a different way that the lights work, the light switches. So it is a very different, and it's a shock. You're going to have to learn new ways, a new culture. There might be new ways in which eating takes place. In addition to this, you're going to be separated from familiar and important people. And your familiar routine is going to be out the door, and everything's going to be new. And it can be overwhelming when every sight, sound, food, climate, language is incredibly new all at the same time. And I'm just going to highlight that this can happen to things both big and small. You can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from Ireland. And one of my biggest culture shocks, I thought I was prepared. I'm steady as could be when I came here. Um, and it was actually to the little things that I got culture shocked. And one of the biggest one was I was actually in a meeting here at the university, and I asked where the garbage can was. And everybody laughed at me. And it wasn't meant to be mean. It was very lighthearted, but it's like, oh, you mean the bin, Kristen? That's there. But it was in that moment, it was probably only 60 seconds. I had the biggest culture shock, and everything went through my head of, do I belong here? What am I doing? And it was just a very quick, intense moment, but just to be aware that it's very common. It probably is going to happen to you. It could happen to something big, or it could happen to something small, like calling the bin the garbage. But just know that it should pass. that you're not alone in it. There's going to be a lot of people, and we just say contact your family, contact your support groups on a regular basis. Some ways to kind of combat this is bringing something familiar or finding something similar there, like a familiar hobby or a club. But if any problems do arise, feel free to contact us or your academic coordinator. And you can also avail of the University Galway Counseling Service abroad as well. So just feel free to reach out, but just know that this is going to be very common. And it's something you'll definitely can grow through and learn a lot about yourself. But just be aware that it's coming and that we're here to help if problems do arise. And so these are just the key personal challenge when students come back from a study visit or a traineeship that they say. The biggest thing they find is adjusting to now living alone, but their whole familiar people are gone. The second is having to adopt different foods. And then the third is adopting to the expenses of living abroad. So then the key advice from returning students fit right into this. The top advice is to budget. So we're giving you about 80% of the grant up front. So don't spend it all at once. Make sure you budget, look at how much money you need to spend for rent and food. It might be very different than here. The second piece of advice from students is try the local food, explore your local city where you're living at, and then just enjoy. You're there for a traineeship, but also enjoy your time. We all are excited and wishing you a great experience. During your traineeship, and we're here to answer questions. So we'll open it up to a Q&A now. I will also stop